online, or I'm coming back online. So I am going to be continuing on with this drawing 2 of I'm just making the picture I have a little bit easier for me to see. So once we've got this dimension, it's pretty, these days with modern AutoCAD where you don't have to do everything by coordinates, you can just do things by distances and it will help you with the angles. It does make life a lot easier. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go down 16 and then go across, ooh, what is this distance? I don't have good, it's 40. So part of these is figuring out the dimensions, that if I know this is 80 and that's 20 and 20, well, that means this is 40, right? So they do say that you should never have 1, 2, 3, 4. You should never have that dimension, because if you have that dimension, it means that you can have an error. I disagree. I think there is good arguments to say that having this dimension gives the designer a check. Sorry, it gives the people, the manufacturer or the person constructing the thing a check. And so what that means, I'll just bring this one in so you can see. So what that means is that what they say that if you get a drawing, anything that has these sorts of dimensions, you should add everything together to check that you have the correct value here. And it's just so easy to create that, to produce that value, that I think that you should always add up, provide all the dimensions. But in the HSC, there's a good tendency not to do that. And the reason why they tend not to do that is because they want you to be able to figure out missing dimensions. That's what they're testing, part of what they're testing for. Okay, so we're going down 40 and then across to, now the next thing we're going to talk about is, oh no, we're not up to that yet, is snapping to points. So this is 60. Now if I go to here, you'll see that it snaps to that point. I can specify the points that I snap to, and I can specify the angles. So if I'm only working to angles that are 90 degrees, I can click this and it will snap to those angles. I can also specify where I snap to in terms of objects. So I can, let's see, object snapping. Yeah, so I can snap to the endpoint, midpoint, centers, and so the times when you might want to snap to those things, and there's times when you don't. So it can be helpful to have those things listed. Okay, so we're now going up 24, which goes across here. Now I have an object that I want to delete, which I can just select, and once I select, I can hit delete on my key, or I can press E for erase. That's another option. Okay, so now that I've got this first object, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a line that is 30 millimeters. 30 millimeters is generally considered a good gap. It gives you plenty of room for dimensioning and for labeling. Okay, so I'm going to go across again 80, and then I'm going up 10. I'll just move this drawing over a little bit. The problem is that, yeah, if I really can't, I don't think I have an option, a good option to keep this always on top. If someone sends me a comment saying how you can get it always on top, then by all means I'll do that. But in the meantime, I'm going to have to. I mean, I closed it. That one there. Okay. So to get the line back, L. Okay, so this is 30 and then up. Well, again, I don't have a dimension, so I'm actually going to go around. I'm going to press escape and then press L again, and then I'm going to go. Now, what is the width of this object? Okay, so this object, I don't have this dimension, and I don't have that. Oh, what do I do? I have that dimension there. It's 52. Okay, I take that back. Never mind. 52, and then go across 80, and then go down 14. And so this way I don't have to do any calculations, and that's another approach. We're not talking about something that's super difficult to figure out. Now, a way to produce a line that is exactly this distance away, I mean, there's a couple of ways I could do this. I could go like this, that would be fine, and then what I could do is I could trim this line like that. Now, ordinarily you used to have to set a gate, but again, I think that even just in the last AutoCAD update, they've made that easier. So That's interesting. Now, what I'm going to do here, so TR is trim, and then trim that again. That's a way of producing it, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete this line just so we can see again how I can type in offset, O for offset, and I can select the object I want to offset, select object, and then, okay, O, specify distance. We want this distance to be 40 millimeters. And then you can go left or right, so then you have to click. So that's how we produce that line. Now I'm going to produce another line. Now there's a couple of ways we could do this. What we would do, L, oh okay, I have to go to escape, L. Okay, so I could just go with this object here, and then off here I could draw out something, I don't know, called 200 millimeters. And then to specify the angle, I do the less than sign, and then that way I can then set the angle at 45 degrees. That's the first time we need to do that. Now what I could do is I can just put all of my objects out here. Right. Now I could measure these all out again, but it's a lot easier to do it this, well, I mean, it's pretty easy to do it this way. And I'm just hitting space at this moment because space will also remember what your last one is. Again, this is way easier than it used to be. If I select this object, I mean, you would hope that things are better than they were 30 years ago, but this technology. Now I'm going to press TR and just start cleaning up these lines that have extended past. So it's kind of like when we draw construction lines and to draw an object. So I'm going to erase everything. Oh, I did want these lines. Now, what some people might do is they might not erase things. They might just put them onto another layer. But me, I don't know if that's necessary. I would say that these lines are quickly, can be produced pretty quickly. So you could do that if you wanted, but I probably would just draw them up again if I needed them. Okay, so now these lines don't extend here, so I'm going to trim them out. And we have now, there's a consideration that in year 11, we still use hidden detail. And hidden detail, well, there's this show called Rugrats. I don't know if that's a thing that is resonant with kids these days. But in Rugrats, they once were talking about the Invisible Woman, and they were saying that the Invisible Woman, all she does is turn into dotted lines, and that you can still see the dotted lines. I always think of that. It's probably not a reference that is going to be super relevant to people, but that's what I think of when I think of hidden detail. Now, how do we show hidden detail? Well, we can use layers. That's probably the easiest way. So if we go to layers, now I haven't set up layers for maybe a year, so it's going to be new for me. But I go to this one here with the star, and I'm going to call this one, well, we can have layer 1, that's fine. And I'm going to have layer 2, and I might put on just HD, right? Or maybe I'll call it hidden. Okay, so then I can choose the line type, and so I can set the line type as, in this case, so the question is, how do we show hidden detail? So hidden detail should be a thick dark dashed line. So we're going to set that, we're going to set our distance as, well, I might set it as 0.25 millimeters, which is still pretty thick, but it's not going to be anywhere near as thick as we'll go with this, and then we can do that one for our thin dark lines. Okay, we're going to do 0.3, which the HSC expects you to use 0.5, but I find that looks really dark. We'll just use 0.5, even though it looks ridiculous. And it will look really ridiculous on this, but okay, so what we can do is we can select all these objects, and then we can move all these objects to this layer. well, actually, what I want to do first is I want to get, so we're going to add a new layer type, and we're going to add in this one, ISO dash space. It's maybe a little bit far apart. Load. Yeah, look, we're going to use this one. Sorry, this one. Yeah, I guess that'll do. So we're setting that as the line type. Now, we want layer 1 to also be 0.5. Again, I think it's going to look ridiculous, but I should probably teach you what is the HSC standard. So I'll put those layers over there. And then what I can do is select this object, and then one of these buttons should do move everything to layer. Oh, here we go. So select everything, and then I move it to layer 1. Everything's on layer 1 now. Okay, and then the things that are hidden, what I can do is I go and click, select them all, and then move them to hidden. And so now we get the dashed line of hidden. You can change the scales and things. At this point, I don't really care that much. Okay, so now I'm going to create a new layer. So again, I'm going to go to layer properties, go to this one little star on it, and I'm going to create a new layer, and I'm going to call this one dimensions, or just dims. And I'm going to specify the distance here as I don't really care, but we'll go with 0.25. That's half. And we can close this again. And now what I'm going to do, so when we start dimensioning, the thing is we have to do set our standards. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a new manage dimension styles, right? And I'm going to create a new style. I think there's a song about the new style. It's the new sound, that's what I'm thinking of. That's a show, I don't think anyone's gonna, oh, what I have made my kids watch The Mighty Boosh. There are some moments that are funny. The Priest and the Beast is pretty good. I'd maybe recommend specific episodes and go from there. But if you watch the first episode of Mighty Boosh and don't like it, well, there's probably not going to be a few. Okay, so I'm going to call this AS 1100 LP, right? That's my interpretation of the AS 1100. So we're going to continue. I've already done this in another video, but okay, so I like to extend these little lines past the arrows. I like to extend them 2 millimeters. I like to offset for the margin about 2 millimeters. Symbols and arrows, I like closed filled arrows. That's pretty typical. I like 3 mil arrows. I don't have center marks on the thing. You can have center marks. It just shows you a mark where the center of the line is. I don't think you need that. I'm going to call the arrows, yeah. Oh, can't seem to change the arrows if I go there. So maybe I am going to have center marks. Oh, wait, that's center marks. I thought that was arrowheads. Arrow size, yeah, 3. Okay, text. We're going to use the offset off the line. Yeah, 1 millimeter I think sounds about right. We could go 0.6. I mean, that's what you're using. Text height, I think we said that 3.5 is the standard, and it's 5 for headings. Okay, fit. Okay, we want things like use overall scale. For the moment, we're using overall scale. So there's ways that if things don't fit, how you show that. Okay, format is, yeah, we want decimal precision. We don't want any, we just want it rounded to the nearest millimeter. The decimal, if we are going to use decimals, we're going to use a full stop because in France they use commas. Scale factor, so sometimes we might be drawing things and we want the, like, so if the drawing's at 100:1, you can use paper space, but this is another way of getting your dimensions where you want to draw something much bigger or smaller, and then you want to show it on a, well, want to print on a piece of paper, and so you might put in a scale and then apply this to dimensions only, that sort of thing. just so that you can see the dimensions. Because if you draw a whole house and then do dimensions, if you draw that house to scale, you won't be able to see the dimensions. I don't think we want alternative units or tolerances, so I'll probably do. Okay, so we've got that. And now what I want to do is I'm going to go to dimensions, and I'm just going to start clicking around things. So I go here to here, and then I want to specify that this is going to be 10 millimeters away from the object. And then I'm just going to do that again. So if I just hit space, that will give me a new object. Now, if I go to there, it will, so okay, we'll just have a look at what happened there again. So if I go space, if I want to go just from this object to this object, right, you see that we get this weird thing happening here. But if I go to there, and you'll notice that it will line up, I don't have to type 10 anymore. It will go just between those objects. And then I'm going to go space. I can just go off the object. I can just go off this. But there's a problem with doing that, which is, do you see how we don't have the gap? And we want to have a gap. The gap is important. So I'm going to go instead from here to here, and then like that. Okay. So for these other objects, space, this one I can just go 10, and then this one, 10, and then here, for the next one, I want to go from here to here. Now this is what we call nested dimensions. I'm going to specify this one as 20 mil away, right? I will provide overall dimensions. Like I said, there's debate over whether or not you should, we'll go 20, whether or not you should show all of the dimensions. It's up to you. I think in this case it's pretty clean, whereas here it's probably worthwhile. That's my argument. Okay. Now, I might want to go from here and then extend it out by 10 mil. That's an idea that I might want to do, but in this case I'm just going to do 30. Like I said, the problem with that though is if I do that, I don't get the gap, and I do want that gap. So we're going to delete that again, dim, and we go from here to here, and then if we go 10, I think that should be right. Yep. Okay, I'll go just off this thing. And then if I click there, I don't need to type in 10. Wouldn't have killed me to type in 10, but then we'll go again. Now I want from here to here. Now we'll go 10. We'll go 20. Now, in this case, I don't think it's super, I mean, I think that that's such simple arithmetic that I don't see any good value, a good reason to include that one there. You could, but remember I said before that you have to make sure that dimensions add up. So it's important that this and this equal to 56. If they don't equal to 56, then you as the manufacturer probably have a responsibility. And I think there'd be an argument to be made that if that goes wrong, that people will claim that you as the manufacturer probably should have known better. I'm going to say that's probably good enough. That's probably enough dimensions for this drawing. Now that took me, I think I started at 11, so we'll say that it took me 20 minutes to draw that picture. And I think that that's good enough. I mean, I had already done a little bit. I think that's good enough, and that gives you an idea. And the point to notice is that you don't see the line width when you're looking at the picture. It's only when you go to printing, right? So if I go to print, let's say print to PDF, right? And when I want to print to a PDF, okay, so I'm going to put on an A4 piece of paper. What do I want to display? Well, okay, in this case, I can choose everything, that's extent, or I can choose a window. So we'll just say everything, which is, and then I want to put the thing on the center, and I don't want to do the scale. I want to do 1:1 is the scale I want to have. I don't want to fit to paper. Now I can have a look at this before I hit print, and you can see that, remember I said that my line weights will be a little bit ridiculous in that the lines are so dark compared to the dimensioning lines. Now, I mean, here's the advantage, right? The advantage of doing 0.5 lines is you can really tell what is a dimension and what is not. You can really tell that. So that's its advantage. Yeah, so I think that's good enough. I'm interested to see why this line, I really think it's possible I just didn't collect those lines when I was drawing. So I'm actually going to cancel and just check that these lines, yeah, they're on layer 1. And what I wanted to, yeah, that should be on layer 1. And this one here, we said layer 1 was our, what's this layer? That's layer 1, yeah. Also, it maybe makes sense to sometimes have your layouts. So we've got A4, but we can have it as horizontal or vertically. So again, we're going to set our dimensions as 1. We're going to center the plot so that the whole picture, but we don't want to do display. We want to do the extent of the object. That means we're going to see everything, not just what happens to be on our screen right now. I think it needs it to be a PDF or something, like you need to have chosen something. We'll do high quality. We'll see maybe if that makes a difference. Oh, I can choose portrait or landscape. There you go. That's how, yeah, okay. We'll preview. Yeah, still doing something odd there, but we'll plot and see if that comes out any better when we do drawing model going to, okay. So in this is the VCE document, and it says that when we do visible lines should be thick dark lines, hidden detail lines should be thick dashed lines, and it also says that in the HSC. So sorry, not in the HSC, in the Australian Standard. So it says hidden detail lines should be dashed thick, C note 2. So continuous lines we see like this, and note 2. It is recommended that only one thickness of dashed line be used. That's the note there. Okay, so they do specify, like, in terms of what the spacing ratios are. I don't really care. I'm not going to lose sleep over that. We could go back quickly just to see what the HSE, I think it should be equal spaces, like the dash and the dot. Nope. Looks like it should be longer with a smaller gap. So if we go back to the drawing we produced, we see longer with a thicker dot. That said, we maybe say that we want that scale to be half that, right? And I did of the dashed lines. So what I did here is I just collected the lines that I wanted, and I just right clicked them and I went to properties. I'm sure there's a better way to get to properties. And then there, originally it had the line type scale as 1. And if you can see that in the preview for 0.3, it's a little bit too small. I think 0.5 is just right. And there we go. That's how you change the scale of that spacing. So hopefully that was useful.